Hey everyone, and welcome to a deep dive
Into
all about mental health.
Awesome.
Yeah, we're going to be digging into an article called 7 Simple Science-Backed Ways to Better Your Mental Health.
Okay.
And I love that it's not just fluffy advice, right?
Yeah.
It's all backed by research, and we're going to be breaking down each of these 7 tips. Consider this your toolkit for a happier mind, basically.
I love that. A toolkit. That's a great way to put it.
Yeah, just like actionable strategies and... You know, we're all about that here, right?
Exactly.
So the article jumps right into social media.
Okay.
And I feel like this is such a hot topic. Like, is it good for us? Is it bad for us? What's the deal?
Yeah, it's such a mixed bag, right? Because I think everybody has anecdotal evidence
Right.
to say like, oh, I felt really bad after I was on Instagram for, 2 hours.
Totally.
But then there are other people who are like, well, I use it to connect with my friends and family who live far away, and it makes me feel great. So
It's hard.
it is
It's
hard.
a no.
Yeah.
Like, what's the...
And the research is
Yeah.
still kind of like figuring that out. So it's kind of like the whole video game debate.
Oh, yeah.
Back in the day where everybody was like, video games are going to make kids violent. And turns out,
My parents said that.
like, not really. Not any more than
Yeah.
anything else. So I think like social media is kind of in that space right now where it's like,
It needs more time.
it needs more time,
Yeah.
exactly, for us to like
The
see
long-term research.
long-term effects, yeah.
So what should people do in the meantime? Like, do you think it's best to just delete everything?
I think it's all about your own personal experience. Like,
Right.
if you notice that, you're on social media and you're feeling down,
No.
or you're like comparing yourself,
Constantly comparing.
then, maybe it's not great for you and you should take a break. But if you're finding that you're using it in a positive way and you're,
It brings you joy.
it brings you joy and you're connecting,
Yeah.
then I think it's okay.
It's all about being mindful, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, the next tip is so interesting. This is a classic. I feel like everyone's heard of deep breathing.
Right?
But they have this quote in the article, and I thought it was so fascinating. A psychology professor called Deep Breathing, the most precise pharmaceutical you could ever give yourself, side effect free.
Wow.
Like, what does that even mean? What's going on there?
That's such a powerful statement. And, it's true. When we take these deep, slow breaths, especially when we elongate the exhale,
Oh, interesting.
we're actually tapping into our parasympathetic nervous system.
Okay.
And that's our rest and digest, like chill out system. And so, you're basically giving yourself medicine when you do that.
So it's not just some woo-woo relaxation technique. There's actually, like,
It's physiological.
biology
piece.
happening.
Yeah.
Wow, that's so cool. Do we know, like, is there research? Has this actually been proven?
Oh, yeah, there's tons of research
Real-
on, how breathing can affect our anxiety levels, our stress response,
Interesting,
our
right?
heart rate variability. We can literally change our physiology
Through our breath.
through our breath. Yeah.
That's wild. Okay, is there like a specific technique that our listeners can try, like right now?
Absolutely. There's the 4-2-4 breath,
Okay.
which is where you inhale for a count of 4,
Okay,
hold for 2, and then exhale for 4.
got it.
And that's just a really nice, easy way to kind of like
Reset.
Yeah.
Okay, I love that. Now, this next one is all about the gut-brain connection.
Okay, yeah.
I feel like, again, we've all kind of heard about this, but the article mentions something called the microbiome.
Right.
And apparently, it's way more than just digestion.
It is. It's so cool.
Tell me everything.
So we have trillions of
Yes.
microbes living in our gut.
Okay.
And they are actually communicating with our brain.
Wait, hold on.
Yeah.
These little bacteria are talking to my brain.
They are, and they're influencing, our mood, our stress levels, even our thoughts.
That's wild.
It's crazy.
Okay, what's this called again?
The microbiome gut-brain axis.
Oh, the axis.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So how do we keep those little guys happy? Like, what we got to do?
Well, prebiotics and probiotics are really key.
Okay.
And prebiotics are kind of like the food for the good bacteria.
The food?
Yeah, and probiotics are the actual bacteria.
One is the food, one is the bacteria.
Exactly.
Got it. Okay, what are some examples of those? Like, what kinds of foods are we talking about?
So for prebiotics, we're talking like, lots of fruits, vegetables, whole grains,
Okay.
high fiber foods. And for probiotics, things like sauerkraut, kimchi,
Oh, interesting.
yogurt with live cultures, even kombucha.
So we got to eat a diverse diet to keep our
Yes.
gut happy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. All right. Let's talk about yoga.
Okay.
I have always loved yoga. I think it's so calming, but is there like real science behind that?
There is. So yoga is, it's more than just stretching. It's like
Yeah.
this combination of breath work, mindfulness, and the poses.
Okay.
And it can really reduce our levels of that stress hormone cortisol.
Oh.
and increase our, happy neurotransmitters.
Oh, like serotonin, dopamine, all that.
Exact.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. What did the article say about its effectiveness compared to other, like, treatments and stuff?
Yeah, so there was a study that they highlighted that was done at NYU.
Okay.
And what they found is that yoga was a great tool,
Yeah.
but, CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, was kind of more effective for long term.
Oh, interesting.
So, yoga is a great tool in your kind of like toolkit,
Yeah.
but, CBT might be
The gold standard.
the gold standard,
Look,
exactly.
there's no reason why you can't do both, right?
Exactly. And plus, yoga has all these added benefits, too.
Oh, yeah.
Like increased strength, flexibility, balance.
Right. It's good for your body, too.
It's good for your body and mind.
Okay, I'm sold. I'm going to go do yoga after this. Now, this one completely blew my mind. They said that gardening is as good for your mental health as a vigorous workout.
Isn't that crazy?
What?
But it's true. So there was a study in 2021 that found that people who garden 2 to 3 times a week had like significantly higher well-being scores and lower stress levels.
I believe that.
Yeah.
You're just being out in nature, right?
It's so grounding. I
Yeah.
think it's a combination of, being outside, getting that sunlight,
Yeah.
the physical activity, and then there's like the sense of accomplishment too, right?
Tending to something.
Yeah, like nurturing something.
Watching it grow.
Watching it grow.
Yeah. Okay, so you don't need, like, a huge garden
Right.
to get these benefits.
No, even just having like a couple of houseplants.
A couple of pots on your patio.
Yeah, totally.
You can get those benefits.
Yeah.
Love that. Okay, next up, food. Of course, we got to talk about food.
Of course.
Yeah, my mom always said, you are what you eat.
It's so true.
It's so true. And the article really broke down specific food categories
Yeah.
that can really support our mental health.
Yeah.
So let's dive into that. What are some of, like, the big ones?
Well, we already talked about fermented foods.
Okay.
So those are kind of like at the top of the list, right?
Yeah, those good bacteria.
Gotta feed those good bacteria.
Okay, give us, like, the highlight reel. What are, like, the best fermented foods for a happy mind?
All right. So we got sauerkraut, kimchi,
Okay.
kefir, yogurt with live cultures.
Okay.
There's miso, tempeh, even some pickles and kombucha can count.
Wow, that's a long list. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Okay, what else? What other foods can we be, enjoying for a happier brain?
So tea, coffee, and dark chocolate all made the list.
Wait, really? I thought those were bad for you. Like, I thought you were supposed to cut back on those.
Well, in excess, sure, but they're rich in polyphenols,
Okay.
which have been shown to improve blood flow and brain health. So in moderation,
Moderation.
those things are actually good for you.
So those little treats are actually okay.
Oh, yeah.
Love that. Okay, what else? What else made the cut?
Leafy greens.
Oh, of course, leafy greens.
I know, right? But they're packed with nutrients that are essential for brain function.
Like what kind of nutrients?
Things like folate, vitamin K, magnesium,
Got it.
spinach, kale, chard, all those delicious, like, vibrant greens.
All those good greens?
Yeah.
Okay, check. What else?
Raw, unsalted nuts.
Okay.
So almonds, walnuts, Brazil nuts, those are great sources of polyphenols
Okay.
and healthy fats.
Oh, so they're like good fats.
They're good fats, yeah.
Cool, cool. What about fish?
Yeah, oily fish like, salmon, mackerel, sardines, anchovies, those are rich in omega-3 fatty acids,
Okay.
which are so important for our brain.
Brain function.
Yeah.
Got it. So a couple of servings of fish a week, plus all those yummy nuts and greens.
Yeah.
I'm feeling good just thinking about it. Okay, so we've got to talk about the not so fun stuff,
Yeah.
ultra-processed foods.
Oh, yes.
The article calls them UPFs.
UPS.
Catchy, right?
Catchy.
But these are everywhere, right?
They are. They're convenient. They're cheap.
Super convenient.
Yeah, but they come at a cost.
They do. So why are they so bad for us?
Well, I think, like, the main thing is they're just stripped of all their nutrients.
Okay.
So they're often high in sugar, unhealthy fats, artificial ingredients.
So they're basically like fake food.
Pretty much.
Wow.
Yeah. And so, they're designed to be hyper-palatable,
Huh?
meaning, like, they're engineered to make us crave them.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like they're tricking our brains
Yeah.
to want more.
And, the research is showing a link between UPFs and mental health issues. Like, there are some studies that suggest that
That's scary.
higher intake of UPFs is linked to higher rates of depression and anxiety.
I mean, it makes sense, right? If our body's not getting the nutrients that it needs,
Exactly.
it's going to kind of like freak out.
Yeah. And then, the inflammation that UPFs can cause in the body,
Yeah.
that can also affect our brain.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. And then, not to mention, they can mess with our gut microbiome,
Right.
which we know is so important for mental health.
Yeah, it all comes back to the gut.
It all comes back to the goat.
So what do we do? How do we escape this world of ultra-processed foods? It feels like they're everywhere.
I mean, it's tough, right?
It is tough.
But I think, like, awareness is the first step.
Okay.
So reading food labels, looking at ingredient lists,
Yeah.
and then just kind of like making those conscious choices. Like,
Yeah.
okay, instead of this bag of chips, maybe I'll grab some, carrots and hummus. Or
Yeah.
instead of this soda, I'll have some water.
Yeah, little swaps.
Little swaps, yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, we've covered a lot of, right? We talked about social media,
Yeah.
talked about breathing.
That's gut.
The gut, all this cool stuff. Before we move on, are there any, like, key takeaways that you want to emphasize, like, for our listeners to really walk away with?
Yeah. I mean, I think, like, the main thing is that mental health is holistic, right? It's not just about, like, what's going on in our heads.
Yeah.
It's about, like, the choices we make every day.
Yeah.
It's about taking care of our physical health
Right.
and our mental health.
And realizing that they're connected.
And they're all connected.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, it really is empowering to think about that, right? Like, we have more control than we think
Yeah.
over our mental health. And speaking of control, we were just talking about those ultra-processed foods and how they might be linked to, like, bigger mental health issues.
Exactly.
So let's unpack that a little bit. Like, what are we even talking about when we say ultra-processed? Like, what are some examples?
Yeah. So basically, it's anything that's like mass-produced and packaged.
Okay.
So, think like those, sugary cereals, instant noodles, those frozen dinners.
Okay, so like stuff that's designed to be
Convenient?
super convenient.
Yeah.
Okay.
And basically what happens is that they go through all this industrial processing
Mhm.
and it strips away a lot of the natural nutrients, like the fiber and the vitamins and minerals.
So it's kind of like they're stripping their goodness.
Exactly.
And then what happens after they're stripped of all that good stuff?
Well, then they often add like artificial ingredients, preservatives,
Okay.
flavor enhancers to kind of like make up for that loss of taste and texture.
So it's kind of like a bait and switch, right? Like you think you're getting this quick, easy meal,
Right.
but it's like really not doing your body any favors.
Yeah, you're sacrificing your health in the long run.
Wow. And then, so they're saying that there's research emerging
Yeah, there's a growing body of research.
that's linking these ultra-processed foods to these mental health issues.
Yeah, and that's kind of the scary part, right? Yeah.
So it's not just about feeling sluggish or gaining weight.
Right.
It's affecting our brains.
Yeah, one theory is that, these foods can cause inflammation
Okay.
throughout the body and the brain.
Oh, interesting.
And we know that inflammation is linked to, mood disorders and
Okay.
cognitive impairment.
Wow. So, I mean, it really is like our brains are on fire.
Well, maybe not literally, but
Not literally, but
yeah.
wow, that's crazy. Okay, so then we got to remember about the gut too,
The
right?
gut, yeah.
The gut microbiome.
All these ultra-processed foods can really disrupt the balance of bacteria in our gut,
Okay.
which we know is so important for mental health.
Yeah, it all comes back to the gut. So what do we do? I mean, how do we like escape this world of ultra-processed food? Like it feels like it's everywhere.
It is everywhere. I think like the first step is just awareness.
Okay.
Like really start reading those food labels.
Yeah.
Looking at the ingredients list.
It's amazing how much stuff is in those foods. Like,
Right. You're like, what is this?
yeah, you don't even know what half that stuff is.
Exactly. So I think that's the first step. And then, thinking about those swaps.
Yeah.
Like, okay, instead of that bag of chips, can I grab some, fruit or some veggies? Instead
Yeah.
of that soda, can I have, some water or unsweetened tea?
Little swaps.
Little swaps, yeah.
Okay, cool. I love that. All right, so let's move on to another tool
Okay.
that I think is like so powerful for mental health, and that's breath work. I feel like we all kind of breathe without even thinking about it.
We do. It's like the most automatic thing.
It's automatic.
Yeah.
But the article talks about how we can like actually use our breath
Right.
to regulate our emotions and like calm our mind.
Yeah, it's like this built-in stress reliever.
I love that. It's like we don't even need any.
We don't need anything. It's
right
just
there.
there.
It's right there, yeah.
So, I mean, we were talking about deep breathing before, but are there like other techniques that people can use?
Oh, yeah.
Tons
Really
of them. Yeah, there's so many different breathing exercises. Like, for example, the 4-7-8 breath.
Oh, I've heard of that one.
Yeah, so that's where you inhale for 4, hold for 7, and exhale for 8.
Okay.
And that's a really good one for anxiety and sleep.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I got to try that one. I have trouble sleeping, so
Yeah, that's a good one.
what other ones are there?
There's box breathing.
Box breathing, what's that?
Yeah, it's a technique that's often used by like Navy SEALs.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's like serious stuff.
It's for high stress situations.
Okay, I'm intrigued. How does it work?
So you basically inhale for a count of 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, and hold again for 4.
Okay.
So it's like this very rhythmic, yeah, and it's really grounding.
Oh, cool. I'm going to have to try that one later. Okay, the article also talks about yoga as like a way to kind of calm the mind.
Right.
And I love yoga. I think it's so
Yeah.
relaxing and like therapeutic.
It's been practiced for centuries.
Yeah.
For a reason.
Yeah.
And now modern science is kind of like proving all of its benefits,
Yeah.
you know, like reducing stress, anxiety, even depression.
Yeah.
It's really like this mind-body practice.
It's not just about stretching, right? It's about like
No, it's about like connecting
thinking.
with your breath, being present in your body.
Yeah.
And there's research that shows that it can lower cortisol,
That stress hormone.
the stress hormone, yeah.
Mhm.
And then, you know, it can boost those feel-good neurotransmitters
Yeah.
like serotonin and dopamine.
Love it. So is it like a cure-all for everything?
I mean, I don't know if it's a cure-all,
No.
but it's a pretty powerful tool.
It is.
The article mentioned a study that compared yoga to cognitive behavioral therapy,
Okay.
CBT,
Mm-hmm.
for anxiety. And what they found was that yoga was great, like in the short term,
Okay.
but CBT was kind of more effective for like long-term management.
So it's like they both have their place, right?
Exactly. But yeah, yoga is a great addition to
Yeah.
any routine.
And the great thing about yoga is that anyone can do it.
Right.
There's like all these different
Yeah, there's something for everyone.
levels and styles.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The deep dive is all about like giving our listeners tools,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I feel like yoga is such a good example of that.
It is.
Okay, speaking of practical tools, let's talk about gardening.
Okay.
I've always loved gardening. I just find it so therapeutic. Like just getting my hands dirty,
Yeah.
being out in nature.
There's something so grounding about it.
Yeah.
And, you know, science backs that up.
Does it really?
Yeah. So there was a study that found that people who gardened like just 2 or 3 times a week
Okay.
had a significant boost in like their mood and well-being.
So you don't have to have like a huge garden to
No.
reach these benefits.
No, not at all.
Like even just like a couple pots on your like patio or something.
Yeah, totally.
Cool.
It's just, I think it's the combination of things like, you know, being out in nature,
Yeah.
getting that physical activity,
Yeah.
and then that sense of accomplishment,
Right.
like watching something grow.
So satisfying.
It is.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So we've covered a lot, right?
Yeah.
We've talked about breath work. We've talked about yoga, gardening. It seems like, you know, all these different aspects of our lives can really contribute to our mental well-being.
They can. I think mental health is not just about like what's going on in our heads.
Yeah.
It's about like our lifestyle, our environment, you know, our connection to nature.
It's all interconnected.
It's all interconnected. Yeah.
Yeah. Before we move on to like the last part of this deep dive,
Okay.
are there any like key takeaways that you want to emphasize for our listeners? Like anything that you want them to really remember?
Yeah, I think the most important takeaway is that mental health is a journey. It's
Yeah.
not a destination. You know, it's not about being like, okay, I've achieved perfect mental health.
Yeah.
It's about finding what works for you,
Mhm.
building those sustainable habits,
Yeah.
and just like taking care of
It's
yourself.
process, not perfection.
Yeah,
I love that
exactly.
it's a journey, not a destination,
Mhm.
because it really takes the pressure off, right?
Totally.
We don't have to be perfect. We just have to keep learning and growing. We've talked a lot about these individual tools and strategies, but I'm curious about like the bigger picture. You know, we've talked about ultra-processed foods, but they're like everywhere.
Right.
It's almost like they're unavoidable
Yeah.
in our modern world.
It's true. And I think that's a really good point because, you know, we can make all the right choices individually, but if we're like surrounded by a food environment
Yeah.
that prioritizes convenience
Over nutrition.
over nutrition, then it's tough.
Yeah, it makes it so much harder, right? So what can we do about that? It feels so overwhelming to think about like changing the entire food system.
Right. I mean, it's a big issue, but I don't think it's about feeling overwhelmed. I think it's about focusing on what we can control.
Okay.
So, you know, supporting policies that promote sustainable agriculture,
Okay.
making healthy food more affordable,
Yeah.
voting with our dollars, like choosing to buy from local farmers markets, you know, supporting businesses that are prioritizing nutrition.
Right. It's about making those choices whenever we can.
Yeah,
And then also using our voices
absolutely.
to advocate for change.
Yeah.
Cool. And it does feel like there is like a growing awareness
Mm-hmm.
of these issues, right?
Yeah, I think people are starting to like really question things,
Yeah.
demand more transparency from food companies, be more interested in where their food comes from.
Right, like a movement toward conscious consumption.
It is, yeah, like really thinking about like, okay, what am I putting in my body? Where did this food come from?
And realizing that it's not just fuel.
Right.
It's like actually medicine.
It is. It's information.
Food is medicine.
Okay.
I love that. Okay, before we wrap up, I want to go back to the specific foods.
Okay.
That can boost our mental well-being. We kind of touched on this earlier, but I want to dive a little deeper. So we talked about fermented foods.
Yes, those are so important.
Crucial for the gut.
Mm-hmm.
So we're talking sauerkraut, kimchi, kefir,
Yeah.
yogurt,
Mm-hmm.
miso, tempeh. Do I miss any?
You got most of them. Don't forget kombucha.
Oh, yeah, kombucha.
Kombucha's a great one.
Love it. And then we got to remember fiber, too. Right?
Fiber, yes. So important for feeding those good bacteria.
Yeah, so those fruits, veggies, whole grains, leafy greens.
Leafy greens, that's
Lean food.
brain food, packed with nutrients.
What about healthy fats?
Healthy fats, so important. So we're talking like avocado, nuts and seeds, olive oil.
Okay, so we really are talking about like a balanced, colorful, delicious way of eating.
It is. It doesn't have to be restrictive or boring.
Right. It's about abundance.
It is.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I feel like we've covered so much ground in this deep dive.
So much good information.
It is. From the microbiome to breath work, yoga, even gardening. It's amazing how many tools we have
We do. We have so many tools.
to support our mental well-being.
And it's not just about the tools. It's about like that mindset shift.
Okay.
You know, recognizing that our mind, body, and our emotions are all connected.
Taking that holistic approach.
Exactly.
Yeah. Awesome. As we wrap up, I want to leave our listeners with one final thought. We talked about minimizing those ultra-processed foods, but they really are so prevalent in our society.
They are.
It makes me wonder, like, what if we, as a society, shifted our focus from convenience to, like, true nourishment?
That's a beautiful thought. What if we prioritized food education, made healthy food more accessible and affordable, supported the sustainable food systems that really focus on quality over quantity?
Love that. And I think it really starts with awareness. You know, making those small changes. Choosing that piece of fruit instead of the processed snack.
Yeah.
Cooking a meal at home instead of getting takeout.
Those little things add up.
Every choice matters.
I do.
Yeah. Well, we hope this deep dive has given you some knowledge, inspiration.
Yeah.
And remember, your mental well-being is a journey.
It is.
And you have the power to shape it.
You do.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
And we'll see you in the next episode.